Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place you come to when you want to plunge into a whole stack of sources, find those surprising connections, and really get equipped with the knowledge you need. And today, wow, we're diving into something really transformative. We're looking at how AI is, well, fundamentally reshaping TV and film. It's blurring the lines with social media in ways that are kind of mind-bending. The big question we're sort of grappling with here is this. Is that classic linear, top-down way we consume media evolving? Is it becoming something much more interactive, highly personalized, a bit like the social media feeds we scroll through every day? We got a whole bunch of fascinating articles, some research, our own notes. We're going to really unpack this huge transformation.
Absolutely. And to really get our heads around how deep this shift goes, we're going to look at it through an anthropological lens. I think this deep dive is going to spark some real aha moments, about why we actually interact with media the way we do and what it means for who gets to create culture now. You'll start to see how this perspective helps make sense of everything, really, from like a super fast viral meme to these big international legal fights over content.
Okay, yeah, let's jump right in. Our sources seem pretty much aligned on this. AI is pushing television and film into this new kind of existence, one that feels a lot like social media. It really feels like we're stepping into maybe a post-industrial phase for media, where those old lines between just being a passive consumer and being an active creator are just collapsing. But what does that actually mean? Like for how media works day to day?
Well, what's really fascinating, I think, is how neatly this clicks with Marshall McLuhan's big idea, the medium is the message. Think about it. TV and film, traditionally, they were fixed, top down, broadcast at you. The message was delivered, end of story. But with AI, the actual form of the media is becoming interactive, generative. It works much more like social media already does. So the real aha here, I think, is seeing that AI isn't just changing what we watch or listen to, it's changing how we do it. It shifts the whole message from just passive reception to active participation. The medium isn't just delivering something anymore. It's actually inviting you in to the creative part itself.
Okay, so if the medium is interactive now, what does that do to our ability to remix culture, taking what's already out there and playing with it? It definitely brings to mind Claude Lévi-Strauss and his idea of bricolage, building something new from whatever bits and pieces of culture are lying around. And now, with these generative AI platforms, think Suno for music from text or Sora making those realistic videos, people are actively doing that, remixing, mashing up, totally reimagining mainstream stuff. We're genuinely talking about things like someone making a whole South Park episode just for their uncle's 50th birthday.
Yeah.
Or, taking The Godfather and recasting it with their cat as Don Corleone. It's a whole new level of creative freedom.
It absolutely is. And this isn't just some, quirky tech trick. It's way deeper than that. What we're seeing is a really profound shift from mass broadcast to hyper-personalization. The audience isn't just sitting back and consuming anymore. They're actively curating culture, even co-authoring it in some ways. And this ties directly into Pierre Bourdieu's ideas about cultural capital, right? It fundamentally challenges who gets to make meaning, who holds that cultural power. All of a sudden, the traditional gatekeepers, the big studios, the networks, they're having to share that space with individuals who are empowered by AI tools.
That is a massive shift, yeah. Who holds the keys to making culture?
Which kind of leads to this next question. If we're all starting to craft our own content now, are we going to start, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the stuff we made ourselves? Our sources seem to suggest, yeah, that's already happening. And AI just pours fuel on that fire. Exactly right. AI enables what you could call maybe hyper-personalized cultural production. It basically turns everyone into their own little content studio. And as these generative tools get easier to use, more intuitive, those very familiar social media habits, the liking, the sharing, the subscribing, they just get layered right on top of original creation. So it stops being just about content you found and decided to share. It becomes about content you actually made and then you share it, and it gets validated by those same digital rituals we all know.
And what's really compelling, looking at it anthropologically, is how much this resonates with Victor Turner's concept of liminality. He talked about liminality is that in-between phase, right? That threshold space where the old structures are kind of dissolving, but the new ones haven't fully formed yet. You can almost picture it like a chrysalis. Hollywood studios, traditional TV networks, even national cinema industries, they're all in that transformational state. They're being redefined, maybe even bypassed completely by AI's disruptive power. And those familiar cultural rituals, like hitting like or subscribe, they're just migrating into these new creative spaces, even for the things we've generated ourselves.
Oh, it's absolutely a ritualistic shift. Creating and then sharing something you whipped up for your uncle, like that South Park example. That becomes a new kind of rite of passage almost. A really personalized cultural event. It's like a gift economy in the Maussian sense, thinking about Marcel Mauss and his work on gift giving. Remember, he argued gifts aren't just about charity. They're about building social bonds, creating obligations, strengthening communities. So here, that AI-generated media you make for your uncle becomes a new form of social currency. It's about fostering connection, community, not just a commercial transaction.
Okay, so if this creative power is shifting towards individuals, what happens when the stuff they create, or the platforms that let them create it, bump up against the old ways of controlling content? This brings us to a really crucial friction point, doesn't it? That growing tension between the huge tech giants and national governments fighting over content regulation. Our sources definitely flag recent clashes, like YouTube and Google pushing back hard against the Australian e-safety commissioner, especially around laws that demand global takedowns of content that Australia deems harmful. It's this massive digital sovereignty issue. I mean, who actually gets to govern content when it exists everywhere online, instantly? What happens when one country's laws meet these borderless digital platforms?
And that raises such an important question. It's deeply anthropological, really, because it's all about power. It brings Michel Foucault's theories on power and knowledge right into the spotlight. Foucault basically argued that knowledge isn't neutral, right? It's wielded as a tool of power to shape society. And now you could argue algorithms wield that power. They influence cultural memory. They shape public discourse arguably more effectively than old school newspapers ever could. So you see governments trying to assert their moral authority over these tech giants because these companies are effectively deciding which stories get told, which ones thrive in the public sphere, and crucially, which ones get suppressed globally. It's a fundamental struggle, really, a struggle for control over what we see, what we collectively remember, and maybe ultimately who we are as a society.
So wow. As we kind of bring this deep dive towards a close, it's incredibly clear we're looking at way more than just a tech upgrade here. AI is genuinely dissolving those old media boundaries. It's transforming media into this like living, breathing social organism where pretty much every listener, every one of you, can potentially become a co-author. From McLuhan predicting how the medium shapes us to Levi Strauss's idea of bricolage now supercharged by generative AI, we really are standing in that liminal space Victor Turner described. The old guards of Hollywood, they're sort of yielding ground to this explosion of individual creation and connection. And this whole shift really underlines how cultural capital, as Bourdieu would point out, is getting redistributed. And how our everyday social media habits, the liking and sharing, are now extending into this really personal creation, fostering that new kind of morose gift economy we talked about.
Exactly. And if you connect all those dots back to the bigger picture, it's undeniable. This isn't just about technology changing. It's fundamentally anthropological. It's about how our media rituals are evolving. It's about the transformation of power structures. It's about the very act of making meaning in our society today. And those digital sovereignty issues we touched on, like the clashes between, say, YouTube, Google, and the Australian e-safety commissioner, they're critical flashpoints. You can see them as battlegrounds in this global tension. They really reflect Foucault's theories in action, you know? Governments trying to assert moral authority over tech platforms that now hold immense power in shaping public discourse and even our collective cultural memory on a worldwide scale.
So after all that, what does this really mean for you, listening right now? Well, it means you're not just a consumer anymore. Increasingly, you're becoming a co-author, a curator of culture. Think about this for a second. If AI gives everyone the tools to basically become their own mini content studio, capable of remixing existing culture, creating entirely new stories from the materials around us, what stories are you going to choose to tell, and how will you share them, especially knowing now that the very act of creating is becoming so deeply intertwined with these rituals of social connection? What does that look like for you?
I had a wank in the bin. 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 I had a wank wank in the bin. I had a 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 wank. Had a wank